As I said in the introduction, I'm joined today by the blind blogger, Maxwell Ivey, also the Midway Marketplace man. I forget exactly the Midway name that he uses and that people call him, so I'm just going to call him the Midway Marketplace man because that's how I remember him. Maxwell and I connected several years ago, actually, and to be honest with you, the details of our first connections evade me, but we've recently connected over the past, I would say, year in relation to digital branding and branding ourselves online, because Maxwell is doing some impressive things, and I had to reach out to him because that's the path that I was starting myself down. And I think we've both grown substantially since we got started, so I'm glad to have Maxwell on this podcast, and am excited to share what I've learned from Maxwell, as well as, more importantly, to share what Maxwell has to allow Maxwell an opportunity to share what he has with you, the listeners. So, Maxwell, I am very thankful for you joining me, and I want to start out today's podcast with a deep but powerful question, answered as in detail or as little detail as you would like, because I've got follow-up questions and we'll evolve the questions based on your answer to this one. But I like to ask this question because it catches people off guard. Maxwell, who are you and what do you do?
That's a complicated question because, as you know, I have two businesses, and that isn't even everything that I'm up to. Those are just the two main businesses. So let me break it down this way. I have the Midway Marketplace, where people refer to me as Mr. Midway, and there I help people buy, sell, and trade new and used amusement equipment, concessions items, and confections machines worldwide. I offer appraisals, and I have a wealth of links to companies in the amusement industry as well as businesses that supply them. Then I have another business, the Blind Blogger, which maybe I should have picked a better name for it, but that's the name people hung on me, so I roll with it. And that's where I help people go after their big goals and dreams in life by helping them define the goal, determine the steps, and keep themselves inspired and motivated along the way until they get to their goal or until they get far enough along on their path that they can manage to walk it by themselves. And then in addition to both of those, I'm one of these people, I'm always open to new opportunities, new challenges, new crazy ideas. So, for example, last year, people said they liked my voice and my singing on my podcast. So I've started recording myself singing. So far, it's a cappella, but people like it. And several people have said I need to submit to America's Got Talent or The Voice or something. My response is I generally have more passion than talent, but I appreciate the compliments, and who knows, maybe someday I will. I wrote and self-published a book called Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, a Blind Man's Inspirational Guide to Success. I lost over 350 pounds through gastric surgery, healthier eating, regular moderate exercise, prayer, meditation, and the power of positive energy. So to answer your question, it's a very complicated answer. Or what is that phrase on Facebook under relationship status? It's complicated.
I love it because the only one who didn't answer it that way was John, or Fluffy, the blind hip hop artist I interviewed yesterday. He didn't say it was complicated, but he told us a story, and that's a typical response that I get is it's complicated, and I like it because it gives people like yourself an opportunity to explain whatever details you want to explain about what you do. So I do appreciate that, Maxwell, for answering that question. Now, moving on with the blind blogger aspect, I'm really curious about how this makes you feel. Knowing that there are other blind individuals who are bloggers themselves, how do you feel when you introduce yourself or share with other people that you're the blind blogger?
It depends on the audience. When it's people who are visually impaired, I'm generally a bit reluctant to introduce myself as the blind blogger because, to start with, I know I'm not the only blind blogger. I'm not the only visually impaired blind blogger. There are lots of business people out there, entrepreneurs, bloggers, podcasters, people more talented and even taking more risks than I do. I just happened to be the first guy to claim the name.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And I didn't even claim the name on my own. I as you know, when you interact with sighted people in general, you're the only blind person that they know. So you become the blind person. As I understand it, you're starting to become the blind Periscope guy, and maybe even the blind blab guy. So I was online promoting the Midway Marketplace. I had a blog, was wanting to get the word out there about the equipment I had for sale and some of the stuff I was doing online. So I joined some groups on social media, on LinkedIn especially, and the main group was bloggers helping bloggers. And people in these groups on Facebook and LinkedIn started referring to me as the blind blogger because I was the only blind one they knew. And when I needed a website, several of them said, Max, if you're going to start another website for your coaching, then why not just see if the blind blogger is available? And I checked, and it was, but it wasn't. .com isn't available because there's a guy who has it, and near as we can tell by his posts, he chose the name because he's a blind drunk. He's not visually impaired and drunk. He's a drunk who just drinks to the point that he's a blind drunk. You know, it's one of those things. Mm-hmm. And we keep monitoring him because I'm hoping at some point he's going to fail to pay his registrar fee, and I'm going to be able to claim the domain and get it where it belongs.
Have you ever considered reaching out to him and asking him if you can either buy the domain from him and or get the domain from him?
Well, the couple people that I have asked about doing that have told me, Max, if you reach out to him and let him know that you want it, especially if he finds out that you've already got the other name under the .com and under the .net, .org, etc., he may make the price a lot higher than if you just stall and see if he'll let it go.
True that. Good point. Awesome. So you did think about that. Well, that's inspirational to know how you came across the name The Blind Blogger. And can you tell us, have you been blind all your life?
No, I have retinitis pigmentosa, or RP. I had perfect vision until I was 4, gradual loss of vision until I was about 10 or 11 or 12. Then I had a big drop off of vision. It stayed constant until I was in my late teens, early 20s. And then a gradual loss to the point where it is now, where I consider myself totally blind because I have no functional vision. Okay. The doctors will tell you that I have light perception, but to me, if you're doing everything online or in your personal life with speech or tactile options, then you're totally blind. At least that's my opinion.
Hey, I completely agree. I had light perception until I was about 14 or 15, and then I lost that light perception, and I've just always told everyone I've always been completely blind because I've been blind. So it's just how I identify myself. So completely understand that one. Now, growing up with RP, what were some of the challenges you faced?
Well, the biggest challenge, in my opinion, with RP is the fact that you can never really get comfortable with your level of vision. You know that it's going to, or it's most likely going to change because they can't even predict that. I mean, yes, in general, you're going to gradually lose your vision until it's all gone, but we know people who have been told that only to live most of their lives with being legally blind and never totally blind. So, but the best example I can give people is in my lifetime, I have gone from reading books that were in regular type print to reading large print books to using a closed circuit monitor, which is a camera and TV system that enlarges the print and puts it up on a screen for you, to listening to books on flexible disc and cassette, to now getting my books on digital downloads. And that's just one aspect of things I've done. It's gone from had to make those different changes. Gone from using a typewriter to using a braille to now just using a computer, thank goodness.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you brought... First of all, I want to give a shout out to Rush Miller Foundation. He's out here watching us. He was chatting a message while you were telling a little bit about what you've gone through, and he has a blind son, which is interesting, and he has a foundation that helps blind individuals get tandem bikes. So I want to give him a quick shout out and thank him for tuning in, and I appreciate you checking Maxwell's story out. So definitely get connected with us on Blab. Yeah, I remember the days waiting on the Blab and Twitter. Both of our IDs are the same on Twitter and Blab, respectively. I remember the good old days of waiting for those cassette tapes from NLS to come in the mail. And I was listening to a podcast the other day about someone describing this, and they explained it to a T. You'd wait by the door until your mail came, and if the mailman didn't bring you your tapes that day, then maybe you didn't get new books because you already sent your old books back to the library. Now you just jump on Bard and download the books you want. So what would you say technology, for the most part, in a sentence or two, I mean, expand on it if you want, but quickly as a recap, what would you say technology has done to improve your life?
Well, for starters, I can even go back farther than cassettes. I can remember trying to listen to flexible discs on what amounts to a 33 RPM record player. And you have to remember, I grew up in a family of carnival owners, so a good part of my year was spent in mobile homes and travel trailers. Mm-hmm. And that's not something that's cohesive with listening to a disc, at least not a record, you know. Not talking compact discs, talking back, you know, good old-fashioned album records like the vinyl LPs.
With the needle.
Yeah, with a needle, exactly. So, but, you know, nowadays, me and you have talked about this. I just recently got an iPhone. I know it was in April, and this is November, so that's like 7 months. But it still feels real recent to me, and there's still things I'm just now learning to do. Like, for example, this week, I finally got on Blab, even though I prefer to do things where I have the option to choose between using it on my laptop or on my phone. But I'm on Blab, starting to use my phone for Facebook posts and Twitter and all these other apps that everybody told me would get much easier on my phone than they are on my laptop, because the designers are all designing for the smartphones first and the computers and laptops second. So that's a great thing. Here's an example of something that hasn't happened yet, but it's supposed to happen soon. The airport in San Francisco is putting in a beacon system that will sync up with the Bluetooth on your iPhone, that will allow sighted and blind people to navigate the entire airport in San Francisco from their phone, just like they have a GPS. And the reason they're doing it is GPS doesn't work real well indoors. And they say that the sighted people have as much trouble finding their way around as the blind people do. So somebody came up with this idea of using relay beacons indoors, and they're going to try it. Supposed to be trying it this fall in San Francisco, and if it works, they're talking about installing similar systems in other airports, as well as in shopping malls and in big stores like Walmart, Target, and Kmart, and places like that. So that's something that hasn't happened yet, but, you know, it's something that they wouldn't have been able to do without the smartphones, the Bluetooth, the GPS, and all this new technology that, in my opinion, the blind are just really starting to benefit from.
Right. And you know, I think it was Tesla the other day announced the fact that they have partial autonomous cars, which is, it's scary and exciting both on its own levels, because, you know, there's the whole controversy about autonomous cars and whether or not they're going to be more safe or less safe to other blind or other sighted drivers and stuff. But you're right, blind people are able to engage with technology on an equal basis, which I really like, especially with like Blab and stuff like that. Rush left a comment here. I want to go ahead and read that to you, Max. It says, "I'm afraid of lightning, clowns, and carnies, and you don't seem that scary to me." So wanted to throw that out there to you.
Well, I will always consider myself a carny, but my dad raised me to think that what you should aspire to is what he called a showman. So that's how I see myself. I see myself as a promoter, somebody who tries to not only get myself out there, but get my friends and people that I like out there. As you probably know, Michael, and some of my other friends online, if I see opportunities for them, or if there's a way I can help them, then I'll go out and do that. And I want to thank your friend Rush there that's came in online with us, because I've actually been looking into finding somebody to ride a tandem bike with, but I haven't found an option here in the Conroe area. So if Rush knows somebody that he can reach out to or get me in contact with, where I can start doing a tandem bike and work up to next year's MDA 150, I would love to hear about it. So
Hey, definitely. And Rush actually is following you and I on Twitter now, so that way you guys can go ahead and connect over there on Twitter, which is pretty awesome. Let me see. Yeah, just wanted to make sure he wasn't joining. You can always join in, Rush, if you'd like to talk with Maxwell directly, and we can get you approved onto the call, so that way you can ask some questions. Now, Maxwell, real quick, another question that I've got that you kind of hinted on is, can you, because as you know, I'm all about digital marketing. I've been real into this whole digital marketing, email autoresponders, social networks, and all that type of stuff. Can you give people one tip? Well, first of all, let me go preface this real quick. How is your digital marketing efforts? What would you say your numbers are on Twitter and Facebook, respectively?
We talking follows or
Yeah.
total traffic? I have 7,000 followers on Twitter, 3,300 to 3,500 friends and connections on Facebook and LinkedIn, respectively. Another 4,700 followers on Pinterest. Don't know what my following is on Instagram, but it's up there because a lot of the people that follow me other places are automatically following me on Instagram because of some of the technology that's out there. G plus, I'm connected with a lot of people, but not followed by a lot of people. So that's one area where I can improve. I don't know what's going on there, Mike.
Hey, can you still hear me, Max?
Yeah, I can still hear you, but it sounded like we were on radio there for a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna real quick before you finish answering that question, Rush. We'll get you in here in a minute. Let me go ahead and get these social media questions through with Max, and then I'll bring you on so that way you can talk with them.
Okay, but the other thing I wanted to is I have two mailing lists. I have the mailing list that I've been building on for 8 years now with the Midweb Marketplace that has over 3,000 email addresses on it worldwide. But I could do a lot better with the email list for the blind blogger. It's up to, I think, about 87 people. And as you mentioned to me off before we started recording, people are much more hesitant to give up their email addresses and subscribe to a mailing list. But I'm hoping to improve on that. And I thought offering the ebook was going to make a big difference, but apparently there are so many people out there offering their ebooks that's just not getting it. So I'm going to have to come up with something that's a new offering, something that is something that only I do, or maybe I'm going to have to go with a video or a series of videos or something. I'm going to have to come up with something different because I'm just not growing my email list for the blind blogger like I should be.
Definitely, and we'll share some ideas. Let me bring Rush on real quick. Let me see if he still is trying to come on. It does not look like it. Rush, if you want to go ahead and join again, we'll get you on here. But after I bring, there he is. Let me bring him on. And Rush, you should be on. Are you there, Rush?
Yeah, man. Hey, guys. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Actually, I've been following you, Maxwell, for a little while over on Twitter. So,
all right. Well, that's good to know, Rush.
I was excited to see you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's nice to know that people look forward to seeing me. I sometimes wonder if they're going to get tired of hearing what I have to say after a while. So that really feels good.
Nah, that's great. And so my son lost his vision to brain cancer 15 years ago, and we started our nonprofit to put blind low vision kids on tandem bikes. And so we've done that in like 42 states and 8 countries, and helped somewhere around 2,300 kids ride a bike for the first time. We haven't given away 2,300 tandems, but we've given away a lot to state schools and stuff. And so we're pretty passionate about visual impairment, and pretty much anybody with visual impairment. Work a lot with U.S. Association of Blind Athletes and U.S. Paralympics. And and we're really super excited about technology, which is leveling the playing field. But I think you made a good point, Maxwell, that a lot of it isn't quite there yet.
No, it isn't quite there yet. Michael was talking about the cars that drive themselves. We're probably still 10 years away from those being commonly used, especially by people who don't have sight. But if I could find out where to volunteer, I'd be happy to be one of the crazy people to drive one around for a while if they need somebody to do that.
Well, Tesla has invited my son out to their test track in near San Francisco to ride around in it. So we've just got to figure out a time to go out there.
You should scope that.
Oh yeah, that's not going to be an opportunity that we're going to miss. I tried to get a hold of Google to see if we could get into the Google. I was real interested in what you were talking about with San Francisco Airport and that technology. Is that Sendero by any chance?
I don't know. It's been several months since I read the article, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're correct on that, because I tend to remember the story and not so much the names involved.
Well, I know that Blind Square, the big GPS app for the blind on iOS, they released a beacon system, I think in Germany, if I remember right, somewhere around there, that does indoor positioning. So it might be them as well.
Yeah, and Sendero is out there though around the San Francisco area, and that Mike May that started it. They're in Davis. I just looked them up real quick. They're in Davis. And their whole thing is about mobility and that kind of stuff. There's several of those companies. I was at a really good conference in Telluride a couple of years ago. No Barriers. Are you familiar with that group out of Colorado? Eric Weinmayer.
Yeah, I'm
Eric
familiar
Weinmayer's
with him.
group.
He's one of my heroes. I'm on his mailing list and is subscribed to all of his social media stuff. And so, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, Eric is on the board of my foundation. And I raced on his tandem full suspension mountain bike. I raced across Haiti with a Paralympic cyclist from Canada. So Eric, who lives here in Colorado, is a really good friend of mine and our family. So, and he's worthy of your admiration. He is a super, super nice guy.
Yeah, I tell people the interesting thing is I didn't first find out about him climbing or read his book about Everest. My first exposure to him was by using the search feature on NLS for books in the inspirational personal development areas, and found his book Adversity Advantage, and read that book and was just blown away by that book, and that led me to read his other book about Everest and to start following him and reading about his adventures. And some people talk to me about taking risks, and I tell them no. I got a blog and I run businesses and stuff, but that guy's out there rafting the river that goes through the Grand Canyon. So,
well, let me tell you what drew me to you, Maxwell, who's being kind of coy. The fact that anybody that runs a profitable business, cited, unsighted, in this day and age, hats off to them, because making a buck is not easy. And then compounding that with a visual impairment is, it's I guess prior to my son being blind, the stereotypes that we have, it's like Eric Weinmayer says, I'm never going to be a NASCAR driver. Right. But running a business sometimes is like being a NASCAR driver. And I'm really drawn to anybody with visual impairment. It's obviously because of my son and our nonprofit, but the fact that you're running that business, and I really do like the blind blogger. I guess I'm kind of a fan of yours. I guess when it comes right down around to it, I was stoked when I saw that you were on here tonight.
Yeah, well, I tell people that I came to my role kicking and screaming, but now that I'm here, I accept that what I'm doing does make a difference, and I'm very happy to be able to inspire other people and to give some hope to some people. And the interesting thing is, I find that I seem to help even more sighted people than blind people or family of blind people, which is kind of interesting. But I tell you, I really do appreciate hearing what it's a great thing to your ego. It's the kind of thing when you hear somebody say such great things about you, like you just did. It's the kind of thing you put away in your back pocket, and when you have one of those mornings where you want to pull the covers back over your head, you go, I can't do that. Rush thinks I'm amazing. I got to go back to work.
Right. Well, all my kids' last names are Rush Miller. My name is actually Eric. You can call me Rush. Everybody does when I'm on this blab thing. But I'll tell you, I get a lot of inquiries because of our nonprofit, and I got one, and a lot of the younger kids, they are really more like you or Eric, and really moving forward. It's the adults that seem to be stuck in maybe the 1950s type of blind, I don't know, stereotype. I had a guy that's been trying to raise money for a tandem bike. He's an adult, and so I called and talked to him. He's been trying for 3 years and isn't changing anything up. And I gave him some suggestions, and he gave me resistance. Every time I said, okay, well, maybe you need to change this. Maybe you need to change that. Maybe you need to think of it, from a different angle. And just all of this resistance on why he couldn't do it and why it was everybody else's fault. And I've run into that more with the older generation of adults with visual impairment versus the kids. And so it was really interesting to hear you saying that you need to change up maybe your website or your tact, or clearly you've got that entrepreneurial blood in you that is really, because I've got some other business interests myself. And so I really am drawn to that. And I think that's why when I found you on Twitter, started following you, you really resonated with me.
Well, I appreciate that, and one thing that I've noticed, and what you're saying is really true. There does seem to be a generation gap among the visually impaired, because just last fall, I was invited by the local chapter of the National Federation for the Blind to come speak to a couple of teenage or early college age people at their convention in San Antonio. And they said that they were working on starting a brand new mentoring group, because the kids that are in high school and college now are no longer satisfied with being vendors or operating food service businesses. They want to start blogs and podcasts, or even create brick and mortar businesses, but they have much bigger dreams than the previous generation of blind people had. And so the problem is there just aren't a lot of people who are qualified to mentor to these kids that are out there right now, because the previous generation just didn't have those kinds of visions. They were locked into a very limited number of options and still carry those around with them.
And I think technology like Blab and Periscope and Twitter and all these social networks really helps with that, because it shows other blind individuals, hey, Maxwell's, I won't give your age, you can give it if you want, Max, but he's not a young gentleman. But Maxwell's older, and he's out doing this, and Michael's, I'm younger, I'm only 27, so Michael's younger, he's out doing this. I mean, there's other blind individuals that are out doing more than just the vendor program, and more than just the sit at home and do nothing. One of the guys who I interviewed last Thursday, Vaughn Jones of Fedora Outlier, brought up a good point in regards to the 70 to 75% unemployment number that you hear in the blindness industry. And that is, of those 70 to 75% of individuals, how many are actually seeking employment or seeking to create their own employment?
That's exactly a really good point.
Yeah, if you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they don't consider sighted people who aren't looking for work unemployed. They've got them in a whole other category. So that would be the thing that we need to find out, is of those 75%, how many of them are actually looking for work. And the other question, and I thought Congress was going to address this before the end of their last term, and they didn't get around to it. How many people are out there working at businesses that are working in the black? What I mean is they're generating income, but they're generating it under a friend or family member's name, because they're not in a position yet to give up their Social Security or their disability or their Medicare or their Medicaid.
My son's right there. Mm-hmm.
How many people are working in the black that could be considered employed or business owners if they could come out and say that they're earning income? And I thought Congress was going to address this. They were really close to passing a bill that would have allowed blind people to set up a special tax-free account and you could keep up to $100,000 into that account. You could use it on just about anything, as long as you didn't just take the cash out. You could spend it on just about any purpose, and it was only taxable when you took it out of the fund. And unless you accumulated more than $100,000, you could still receive your disability income.
That would be great. Hey, real quick, Aaron Sands came in here, and he is a blind bodybuilder with 2 young girls. And just from his profile picture, he's kind of a badass. So I just want to say hello to Aaron. Aaron, I'm the only non-blinky here. I have sight, but my son's blind, and we put blind, visually impaired kids on bikes, tandem bikes.
You know what's really interesting is Aaron and I actually just connected on Facebook today, I think it was. So glad to see you here, Aaron.
And, this is all really interesting for me for one very important reason. I don't know if y'all heard it when I mentioned it earlier, but I had gastric surgery 3 years ago. I've lost over 250 pounds since the surgery, over 350 pounds going back to before the surgery. And I'm at the point where I'm healthy enough that I can take on some other physical activities that wouldn't have been an option before. So I'm trying to find something new. I've looked, so I'm looking for possibly a gym or an exercise partner or some different equipment that I could work with. I live in Conroe, Texas, which is about 45 miles northwest of the center of Houston, Texas. So if anybody watching has some ideas or some connections, somebody they want to
do you have a tandem bike, Maxwell?
No, I don't have one, but I'd be interested. I'd be willing to get one if I knew for sure I could find somebody around here that where I could actually use the bike.
Hey guys, Aaron's requesting to come in, so I'm going to go and let him in as well. You two can go and continue your conversation, but I just want to let you know that I'm going to let Aaron in here in a second as well.
All righty, go for it.
So what I can do, Maxwell, for you is extend our... Yeah, look, he's a total badass. I told you that.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, real quick, let me finish off with Maxwell. That if you're interested in the tandem, I can extend our... we have deals through KHS and Cannondale. I can't use our money for you, but I can extend it's almost half off the bikes.
Well, that's definitely appreciated, Dan. And I every year I see these. I see the news coverage of what we have here in Houston is the MS 150, where they take a 2-day ride from Houston to Austin, Texas, and I've always had it in the back of my mind that would be a cool thing to do. But that's one of the things you'd have to ride much farther on a more regular basis than I do on my stationary bike.
Are you near a relatively large metropolitan area?
I'm on the outside of Houston, but I'm outside of the mass transit hub.
Well, there's bike either triathlon clubs or bike clubs that you could definitely find a pilot.
All right. Well, I'll definitely have to go on Meetup and start looking for a bike club around here then.
All right, that sounds good. And if you're connected to me on Twitter, so feel free to contact me anytime.
All right, thank you.
All right, now Aaron Sands, blind badass from Nebraska, is in the house.
What's going on? So
Not much, Aaron.
Actually, I'm at church still. I actually got the notification that you guys were on here. I was like, oh, hey, cool. I might want to jump on.
Well, I appreciate you jumping on today, Aaron. And as I said, me and Aaron connected today on Facebook. Aaron reached out to me and said, hey, I'm looking to do stuff on YouTube. And Aaron Maxwell is another guy who's got some stuff up on YouTube, so you two definitely need to connect as well. Both here on Blab and Twitter and Facebook, all over the place. We can make that connection happen. And he's got some stuff that he's working on too. So glad to make this connection with a lot of individuals on Blab. And thanks for joining.
Well, nice meeting you, Aaron. And how long have you been doing the bodybuilding?
Actually, right after I lost my eyesight is when I started. So about 2 years almost.
Now, are you totally blind?
No, I have light perception, so that's the reason for the shades. That's about it. I have basically the nerves on my eyes are all jacked up, so all I get is a little bit of light.
All right.
Well, you know what, Aaron? I'm going to have to bring you on as an interview for Blab as well. I'm always looking to connect with other blind individuals, and I think it was Eric. Is that what your name is?
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric, I'm going to have to talk to you as well about either getting you and or your son on so that way we can get those, because I don't know if you knew that, but we are recording right now, and Maxwell's going to get a copy of this video for his YouTube channel, and then I take the audio and I throw it in my podcast, the You're on Pay podcast, which is available on iTunes, and it's my goal and objective to demolish all excuses by motivating powerful, passionate, blind individual stories.
Hey,
So,
can you put the link to your podcast in the message section?
Yep, I will do that here.
You're a great host, by the way.
Thanks. I appreciate hearing that. You know, we are our worst critics. We don't often believe that we are doing as good of a job as what we are until someone else tells you that. That's for sure.
Well, look at Gary Vaynerchuk, and he'll tell you have to do this and 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 do this, and then do it some more.
Yep.
Until you can't stand it anymore. So just don't stop. And all of us will be tweeting out and getting all of our different visually impaired channels to come to, follow each other, and then eventually you have a movement.
Exactly. And both, I want to address Maxwell, what you were saying, and Aaron. I haven't gotten it confirmed yet, but I'm going to do it. She doesn't really have a choice. Hopefully she's hearing this and she knows it. But Mel of blindalive.com, blindalive.com, has some great independent workout trainings with the blindness in mind. Because, with traditional workout videos, they say, oh, stretch this arm over here and that leg over there and this and that. And Mel does very good at having someone who describes those in detail. So that's something to also consider as well.
There we go.
So
Hey, Aaron, is your visual impairment, is that genetic? Will your daughters get it?
No. Actually, I was in the Army, so I actually got injured while I was serving, and that's how I lost my eyesight.
Yeah, you've got the I'm out of the military beard.
Definitely. It's No Shave November, isn't it?
That you're right. I'm actually in the Air-Evac in Wyoming with the Air Guard. So I'm a flight nurse. He froze up. You're frozen, Aaron. Aaron's frozen.
we might.
So, Michael, where are you from?
What was that?
Where are you from, Michael?
West Coast represent. I'm over here in Oregon.
Where in Oregon?
Pendleton, home of the Roundup.
My girlfriend lives in Bend, and I'll be in Bend at the end of the year, and she's actually down in Dallas right now near Salem.
Yep, I went to school in Monmouth.
Yeah, she's a doctor down there. She grew up in Lakeview, then worked out in John Day for a while. I used to go out to John Day all the time. Yeah, awesome. So I may be moving to Oregon in July of next year.
Oh, well, that's exciting. Wow, small world. We'll definitely have to stay connected on Twitter and reach out. Looks like we lost Aaron, but that's fine.
It looks like he isn't. He isn't still on there.
Yeah, he dropped.
To do something other than that egg, man. You need to put a cool picture in there.
Yeah, someone mentioned that to me the other day, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. But I need to definitely update that. I don't want to be an egghead anymore. Maxwell, if you didn't know, on both Blab and on Periscope, if you don't add a profile picture, it shows a picture of an egg.
Okay, well that's at least better than what it used to be over on what is it, on Discuss. If people use the Discuss plugin for their blog commenting to make sure that you're an actual person, if you don't have a picture there, you show up as a blue monster. And I don't know if I have a picture on here because I told it to just take all my settings from Twitter, and I've got a good picture on Twitter, so I'm hoping I have
It
a
is.
picture.
It's your Twitter picture.
Yeah, so I'm okay there because I had a sighted person size it so that it actually, because if you're a blind person and you're uploading photos to these websites, they've all got limits on the dimensions that you can upload. And if you can't see to put your face in that target, you end up with the bottom half of your body and none of your face in the picture. So I basically now I've gotten hip to the idea that you have to have somebody who can put it in the crosshairs so that they see your face. Otherwise, they get the wrong idea. And the other thing I've learned is you got to be careful when you're submitting pictures because once before I accidentally clicked a button somewhere that said my picture was adult content and nobody could see my picture at all.
Now, Max, I think we've talked about you not getting into that adult content anymore.
Right. That's the carny in you coming out. I told you, carnies.
Nah, we never had a girls' show, but my grandfather's show did. So I've been told, but I've also got relatives, long distance relatives in the amusement business, who can remember back to the point when their show carried a wrestling act. Chief Little Wolf was the name that the main attraction wrestled under, and he was the grandfather of Joe Miller, a friend of mine who I actually sold one of my first carnival rides for. His family lives over in Louisiana, but like I say, I've heard rumors that my grandfather's show at one time had a girls' show, but nobody's ever admitted to it.
Nobody's ever admitted to it or verbally described the show to you?
No, there are no posters. There are no posters around either. So,
how many generations of your family were in this business?
We're kind of pikers. I've got a cousin who is the fourth generation of our family. My grandfather, Ralph Wagner, started in the 50s. He had 3 sons and 1 son-in-law that were in the business. My Uncle Albert now has a carnival that operates out of Aransas Pass, which is near Corpus Christi, Texas. And his son, Jason, and Jason, I think 2 of Jason's sons. So I guess you could say 5 generations for the Wagner family. But like I said, that's actually that's pretty good for the U.S. But I have contacts over in the UK with the Manning family and the Danter family, and those companies can trace their lineage back 8 or 9 generations back to the days when they operated live animal attractions at court for kings and queens of Europe. So, and
that's wild.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's crazy. One of these days, I want to get over there so I can meet some of these people because their history in the business is just unbelievable. And every once in a while, you catch a documentary of some of the just small bits of their history, and it's a 2-hour or 4-hour show. So I mean, they can trace they were big in the sideshows. They've been big operating rides, and nowadays they're to the point where I tell people this quite often because it impresses the heck out of me. They have their own roads. They have trailers that they can take into a muddy location or to a place that doesn't have a good way for them to get their rides onto the grounds. They can move these trailers onto the ground and unfold them, and they in effect have roads. So these are people, they if there's a movie being made in England or the UK where they need carnival rides or amusement park, something that looks like an amusement park, they're going to use the Danters or the Mannings, So it's just some crazy history. 2 years ago, I sold a carousel, a double-decker mall carousel, to a family in Australia, the Evans family. They didn't buy it to put it in a mall. They bought it to move it. They're actually going to take it from town to town. So, and of course, that's just the difference between the U.S. shows and the Australian and European shows. But yeah, I guess if you count my I guess they'd be my grandnephews or whatever. The Wagners have been in the business five generations now.
Wow.
That's awesome, because you see Maxwell out doing what he's doing, but I hadn't even thought about asking him how many generations of his family were involved in the amusement industry. So that's awesome,
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah, and then on the other side of my family, just want to make a quick mention. The other side of my family, the Iveys, are mostly from South Carolina. My dad worked games on the East Coast, and his dad, my grandfather James Vernon Ivey, on the other side of my family, worked games. Was mainly known for what they called the Lucky Strike pitch, where you would pitch dimes at the labels off of the Lucky Strike patches to try to win a stuffed animal.
Huh. Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. So carnival is in your blood.
Yeah,
I should say amusement is in your blood.
Nah, I'm proud of being a carny. I've never had a problem with being a carny. My brothers, one of my brothers once told a prospective girlfriend that he drove for a limo company, so he wouldn't have to tell her he was a carny.
It's all about perspective.
I've been in restaurants where other people that I was with who are in the business told me to be quiet because they didn't want the rest of the people in the restaurant knowing they were carnies. But me, I've never had a problem with it. Now, it could be because being visually impaired, I'm not as threatening as the other carnies. I don't know, but on my social media profile, back when I was, I've never been ashamed to put down carnival owner or carny on a social media profile or dating profile or any of that. Of course, that might be why I've yet to find a woman and I'm still single. Maybe I need to lie a little more. I'm not sure.
Hey, honesty will bring the right person one of these days. That's all I can say. I've been lucky to meet the right individual, and blindness not affect that. But I'm also not a carny, so you're right. It could be something that's scaring them away. Maybe they're scared of carnies like Eric is.
Yeah, lightning clowns and carnies.
I don't know. What is it? It's been 2 months ago now when I did that interview for the New York Magazine. They asked me a lot of questions about dating, and after it was over with, somebody asked me. They go, Max, how come you didn't say something about feeling women up? And I'm like, come on, that's old school blind. We don't do that anymore. And he said, yeah, but if you had said that in the article, women would have started coming up to you in the shopping centers, and because they would have wanted. I'm like, on the one hand, blind people would be mad at me, but on the other hand, you might have a point.
Well, hey, do you ever get the tweets from the Blind Onion?
No, I don't. I need to look for them.
It's at BL Onion, I think.
Yeah.
Blind Onion on Twitter, and it's. Do you know what the Onion is?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Onion. I'm a follower of theirs. Been a follower of theirs for a long time now.
Oh my God! Well, the Blind Onion. I mean, you clearly have thick skin. He gets some criticism every once in a while. He won't follow anyone because he doesn't want anybody getting in trouble. But oh my God, that stuff. I have started crying because of some of the crap that he writes. I should almost pull it up and read some of it to you. I don't know. And he's never disclosed who he is. I'm assuming it's a him, and it could be Michael. Michael may be the Blind Onion.
I would disclose if it was me. I'm that type of person. Michael's hilarious, though.
Michael's too busy. He doesn't have time to be the Blind Onion.
Well, it is definitely hilarious, and it's just like the Onion, all satire and sarcasm, but it's all from a visual impairment perspective. And it is, once you start reading it, you're going to want to read the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, Christopher, John. There's two new peeps on here. John is from LA. Doesn't say anything else from him. Hi, John. And Christopher Previtt. Love what you do what you love. Entrepreneur, technology, music lover, make it a great life. I'm the only guy that can see on this blab right now. And so welcome.
Yeah, welcome, Christopher and John. Appreciate you checking us out.
Yeah, so John, I think, is from LA, and CL Previtt Ty is from Toledo, Ohio. Hey, I'm going to be in Fort Wayne next weekend or next week for Thanksgiving at my parents' house. So,
hey, Eric, it sounds like you're going to be all over the place for the rest of the year.
I actually travel a lot. Last year, I don't know how many countries I was in. I don't know, 6, 7 countries.
Wow.
And this year has been kind of low. I'll probably ramp it back up next year.
Yeah. I'm really looking to travel more myself. I've got a few opportunities to do some stuff at live events next year, but I'm always looking for more opportunities. So if you run across anything you think I would be good for, I'd appreciate it if you mention my name. I have yet to do my first talk live, but I think I have a good story, and I think people would enjoy hearing from me. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's just about honing that message. And I'll tell you what, this blab is a great, for a lot of people, this may be the only time they get to interact or talk to somebody with a visual impairment. And they realize, oh my God, they're like people.
Well, and Maxwell, you might not have actually went somewhere physically and did a live presentation, but why don't you tell the viewers and listeners a little bit about your experience 2 days ago?
Yeah, about a year ago, I was invited by the president or the founder of the Student Blog Society at Kent University to do a live presentation for them via Skype, and they had quite a few roadblocks of their own before they were able to get their group approved and be official on campus to the point where they could officially invite me to do it. And we finally got all of our stuff together where Monday we connected via Skype, and Mario, who's the president of their society, we had about a 30-40 minute conversation where I was able to answer questions from the members of the society and from people that had emailed him about what it is to run a blog, to start a blog, to do it as a visually impaired person, the different challenges that I have now. And I've been really impressed by the response I've gotten off of that interview, because it's only been about 36 hours. As far as I know, it hasn't been posted anywhere where it can be seen worldwide yet. And I've already gotten like 4 or 5 new Twitter followers and a couple of email subscribers and some great comments telling me how much people appreciated me doing it, to the point where I'm now going to be reaching out to more student groups and seeing if I can't get more opportunities like this, because it was really cool to be a guy that's 49 years old, just in case Michael was still wondering if I was going to tell people how old I am.
I'm 49.
It's kind of cool. It's really cool to be a guy, 49, going to be 50 next year, to get this opportunity to share my experience with some people that are just starting out on their journey. So, it was a really great experience. I enjoyed doing it. And that's another thing I want to agree with you on about this blab, because I've only been using blab for a day. I've been involved in a couple of conversations on shows that I found, and I've already been followed on Twitter by probably another 4 or 5 people. And you're right. This is a really interactive format, because I do a lot of interviews for podcasts and radio shows. And in the last 2 years of doing those shows, I've had 2 occasions where somebody called in to ask a question. And one of those, it turned out the guy was half asleep, and his question was to the host and not to me.
Well, I got to jump in here, Maxwell, and tell you, I told you so.
Well, yeah, but I always take my medicine. I always admit when somebody says that I'm going to be wrong, I always promise to admit when I was wrong. So, yeah, you told me this would be the case, and it has been. My only concern with Blab is claiming my real estate, generating traffic and income from the Blab. My only concern is whether there's going to be a long-term benefit from doing it, or whether it's going to be something that is entertaining and enjoyable but doesn't have realistic advantage to it. But in the short time I've been using it, I'm starting to realize that I was wrong about that too.
Well, I think it's too early to tell. I think you made a very good point, and Aaron's back. Aaron is up there, and we've retained 2 other people. So John and Ty have stuck around. But what you just said, you're claiming your real estate, but what you just did at Kent, Was that Kent State in Ohio?
No, that was Kent University in England.
Well. That's kind of hoity-toity there, Maxwell. You're stepping it up there a little bit. But isn't it interesting that because of technology now, you can have that impact, and what a great forum for it. And I think a lot of the, as a sighted person, what I see is a lot of people have these, as my son's trying to get a job, everybody still has this stigma and this stereotype about what the blind and the visually impaired can do. He tried to work at a climbing gym, but all they had him do was this menial task instead of, teaching him some other things. And granted, he's very, he's not as outgoing and maybe as assertive as he should be. But I think that's what this forum does, and can help coach kids and coach the next generation on how to go out there and go after the things and start a business like you.
Now, Eric, you brought up something, if you don't mind me jumping in and interrupting.
Well, you're the host.
that inspires me with actually one of my last questions on my list of questions to get to Maxwell for this interview. And that is, Max, can you tell Eric and all of our other viewers and listeners a little bit about some of the recent coaching you've started doing? Because that's something that you're taking your passions and sharing them with people who they positively impact.
Right. Well, I have been, I have helped some people on an informal basis, and I have some great testimonials on my website. But to this point, I have yet to attract any paying clients for coaching. So what I decided to do was to offer a group coaching opportunity to people who were willing to take action, and to offer it on a free basis. For the first time. Everybody's telling me, Max, you can't do it for free. People don't do the work if it's free. They got to pay or else. And I'm like, well, I think that I can do a group coaching thing in the future on a regular basis. But I'm one of these people that if I'm going to sell something, I have to feel like I pretty much know what I'm talking about. Now, nobody ever knows it all. We're all going to be learning at some level, no matter how many times we do something. But I figured I needed at least one dry run before I put a price tag on it. And I've been pleasantly surprised. I think we've got, 7 or 8 people in that group, Michael, because, you're one of the people in there. I think we've got about 7 or 8 people. I think we had 3 people that were on the first call and 2 people who didn't make it, mainly because I didn't do a good enough job telling everybody when it was going to be and reminding them to be there. And we've had a lot of great interaction on the private Facebook group for this project. So I'm really excited about the future of my coaching, because I think what's going to happen is, in addition to offering this group thing on a paid basis, and of course I'm going to have to add to it. I'm going to have to add some pre-recorded video or audio and some sort of worksheets. I get that, but I think that down the road, these group coaching things, which people can take advantage of at a lot lower price investment, is going to lead to some one-on-one coaching. And who knows, a year or 2 from now, I may be one of these people who is one of those coaches where you go, I can't believe anybody's paying him that kind of money.
Well, Ty has a really good point down here, using these tools to add value and snippets, but this will help to drive traffic to your full product.
Yeah, we definitely need to connect, Eric, because I was just getting ready to say that was a great point, and I'm throwing Maxwell's link up there. But yeah, use Blab, use Periscope, use social media in general to provide some tips and value to build that relationship with your ideal client, and then drive your traffic back to your main homepage or your main products or services that you're trying to sell. And Maxwell's doing a great job at the coaching group, because it's an opportunity for, I think it's an hour every Friday that we're doing it. We just had our first call this past Friday, but to jump on there and engage with people who have some of the same goals that you have, and or for accountability. Accountability is huge, because you can say you're going to do one thing, but if no one's keeping you accountable for that, then you don't necessarily have to do it, and you're not stepping out of your comfort zone. So, Max, because Ty brought that up, can you tell people how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can go to the blindblogger.net, or they can go to, my email is justask@theblindblogger.net. They can find me at Facebook / The Blind Blogger. The group, the Facebook group, I'm calling it Big Dreams Start with Small Steps, and everybody seems to love the name, so at least I got that part right. And to what he was saying about sharing some little snippets on social media every day, I've started making it a priority of mine to post one small tip every day. And I posted on Twitter first because that 140 character limit really helps keep me from giving out too much at one time. You know, if I've got 500 characters, I'm going to use 500. If I got 2,000, I might use 2,000. So having 140 characters makes me, you know, give them something small and actionable, but not so much that they've got no reason to want to follow me back to my website. So, and I generally post on Twitter with the hashtags. I use 2 hashtags. There's the air traffic controller again. Okay, I use 2 hashtags. The first one is small steps, and the S, both S's are capitalized, and the other is big dreams, and the B and the D are capitalized. And that way, people, if they want to follow either of those hashtags, then they can be sure to get whatever it is I say each day. But
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Now, Maxwell, I've got one last question, and then I got to jump off of this because I have another meeting here in about 15 minutes. Most of my interviews have only been a half hour, so I'm glad to know that we reached over an hour with this one, because that means that people are engaged and they're interacting, which is awesome. But Maxwell, you've got 6,000 followers on Twitter, is that correct? 7,000. If someone was just getting started on Twitter today, what would be your piece of advice for them?
Don't follow anybody that's famous unless you know them personally, because they're not going to follow you back. And with Twitter, when you're first getting started, you have that 2,000 person. If you follow more people than are following you, and you get to that 2,000 number, then you're going to be stuck. And trust me, that's a hard thing to get out of once you get into it. I've been there. I was at 2,000 for a year before I figured out how to get out of it by unfollowing a lot of people that weren't doing me any good on Twitter. And I got down to a low enough number where the number of people following me was close to or higher than the number of people I was following, and I was able to start really growing my Twitter following. Best thing you can do, share other people's tweets, retweet, like, share other people's blog posts, other people's YouTube channels and YouTube videos. The more you make it about other people on Twitter, the more likely people are to follow you, because people don't enjoy. They may put up with me for a little while, but they don't enjoy it long term. So, and also be personal. Don't make it just about your business. Share your personal life, share your family, to a level that you're personally comfortable with. I'm much more open than the average person on social media. Many people have said they wish that they could be as open as I am, and I basically tell them I just don't know any better, or I would hold more back. But be personal, share stuff that's going on in your actual life, build the following, and you can once you start to generate the numbers, then later you can start mentioning stuff that's business related.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. Eric, could you mention that website that you threw in the chat for the listeners and viewers?
So I use Social Quant, and they use an algorithm. Now it costs, it's $25 a month, but you put in the terms that you want. For instance, blind, visual impairment, adaptive sports, and then I've got a slew of others because I'm interested in crowdfunding and social entrepreneurism and things like that. But then they follow and go out and find the profiles that fit those, and I'll do specific hashtags and all kinds of other things. And I'm getting about 60 different followers a day. And they keep those ratios that Maxwell, you were talking about, very tight so that you don't fall outside of that ratio. And I've engaged with some really excellent people. In fact, I'm not so sure that it's not how I found you, Maxwell, is through their algorithm, and I'm actually using it on 3 different Twitter accounts that I have.
I'm averaging somewhere between 25 and 50 new followers a day, which I'm very happy with. I'm not going to meet
That's great.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I'm not going to meet my target of. I don't think I'm going to meet my target of 10,000 by the end of the year. It's going to be close. I'm hoping the fact that more people are going to be home and away from work for the holidays. I'm hoping that might actually help me get a little closer. But I'm at 7,000, going on 7,100. My goal, and the crazy thing is back in January I was in a competition. I don't know if you call it a competition or a challenge or whatever on my blog view, and my goal was to get to what was it? I think my goal was to add 500 followers by the 1st of April. It was a 90-day challenge. And obviously, I've far exceeded that because I was at 1,800 when the year started.
Well, I'll tell you, start hashtagging blab, or maybe Michael, you should come up with the hashtag blind blabbers or blind blab.
Actually, blab blind, hashtag blab blind is what I started using. I haven't used it in a little while, but yeah.
In fact, I'll put that in for my follow. But I'm going to tell you, Maxwell and Michael, just by being on this, you're going to see as you tweet out when you're on these, and you do some more engagement and hashtag blab blind and things like that, and hashtag blab, you're going to get a lot more followers just from blab, because this 3 weeks ago when I just started on blab, they had 100,000 people on the medium, and now it's exploding exponentially.
Yeah, well, like I said, I had 1,870 when the year started. I'm up over 7,000, almost 7,100 now. So that's what, about a 400% improvement over last year, because I started on January 1st of 2014. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's a 400% increase, and the year isn't over with yet. You know, this is November, so I've got about 4 or 5 weeks left. So we'll see.
Yeah, I got confidence that you can do it. Hey, John from LA, no problem. I'm glad that you enjoy the interviews that I do, and that you're getting some value out of those. Wanted to just give you a quick shout out because I did see your comment, and I appreciate you showing your support on both Periscope and now Blab. Now that I've been on here for 104 days, I'm finally actually starting to use it.
Yeah,
so,
well, I appreciate you challenging me to come out here and to use the medium. I am impressed with it, and it does look like it's going to help me grow my social media following and to interact, because that's one thing I really have noticed, is that the more I do either phone or Skype or anything else where you're actually talking to the other person instead of it being all text and stuff like that, the more live interaction I have, regardless of the medium, the more energy I have and the more I seem to accomplish. So definitely looking forward to doing more with Blab. I'm still going to be using YouTube and Podomatic primarily for my podcast, but I can definitely see me actually doing my own Blab show maybe once a month or something. Well, I'll be sure and let you all know when I decide to try it as a host for the first time.
Definitely, and you know me, anyone who's followed me in the past, I'm all about repurposing. As I said, this blab is going to get thrown up on Maxwell's YouTube channel, so he can use it how he wants. I'm going to grab the audio because thanks to Blab, they do that work for me. They send me the audio in an email, so I'm going to grab that, throw it in the Your Own Pay podcast. Search for Your Own Pay podcast in iTunes. I do appreciate any ratings and reviews if you appreciate the content we're sharing. And welcome to WGP 71. I don't see your actual name.
That's Walt. That's my buddy.
That's your Walt?
we were in a pretty radical blab last night. So.
Well, I tell you, I hate to do this because I'm not the host, I'm the guest, but Michael does have to go, so I guess we need to do the closing. However, he closes these shows, and we can always talk again at some point. Y'all are all more than welcome to send me a Skype contact or email me or whatever. We'll continue to talk, I'm sure.
Definitely, Maxwell. And I want to appreciate you for joining us today, Eric, and you've helped to move the conversation on and get some other questions out there that I hadn't asked. So thank you for joining. Thanks for everyone for viewing and listening to the Your Own Pay podcast, or Blab Live, whatever you want to call it. However, I'm going to end that. And remember that if you're listening to the podcast, we do have the exclusive Your Own Pay podcast club that is open until Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. If you want to get more information about that, shoot a quick text message to the number 44222 with the word PAYON, P-A-Y-O-W-N. Once again, that's 44222 with the word PAYON, and that'll put you on the waiting list, and we'll get you into that club if that's something you're interested in. We appreciate you for joining us. Tune in next Wednesday on Blab, and I'll be interviewing a blind beader. She does artwork with beads and other crafts, and that's going to be another exciting blind Blab. Thank you for